Okay, hi Carrie and Demira. I hope this is working. Let's see. So welcome to the webinar, how to get your kids off screens without nagging, screaming, and fighting. Something we all want to do. So I'd love to know what ages your kids are and where you're coming from, where you're calling in from. If you can put it in the chat box, that would be great because two-way webinars are better than one. So today we're going to also reveal the 3 counterintuitive truths for parenting in the screen age. Don't we all want to know? So, okay. My name is Marisa. I'm the co-founder of Screen Age Bootcamp, and my partner Sherry is not here today. I am an active member of the Life Hack Bootcamp family, been involved in the 60-day bootcamp, and fast focus and control, and balling out of budget and morning routines, and I can't even tell you. Anyway, so that's why I'm perfect. My partner Sherry is not here now today, but she's an active part of this whole program, and I'll tell you more about her later. So we come to this really as just 2 moms who've had these problems and didn't want to wait for the tech giants to solve the problem, so we did it ourselves, and it hasn't been easy. So is this workshop right for you? Well, have you seen a kid affected by screens? Have you seen the way the digital pull keeps them, it keeps them glued to the screens and almost lose track of time and place around them? They don't listen. It's actually not their fault. It's engineered that way. So if you've seen the effect that screens have on kids and it bothers you, this workshop's for you. So my goals for the workshop, frankly, is to spare you the agony I went through, which was years. It's been 5 years I've been working on this, and I'll tell you more about that later. Really, I want to tell you I've tried out all the apps and controls and advice and the templates and the conferences, and I'll just help you cut through all of that. I'm going to really reveal the only tool that seems to work over the long haul, and not just with me, and I'll tell you about other families that I've been working with over the last 5 years. And frankly, I'm going to bring back sanity to your home, just cut to the front of the line. The problem is this is one of those problems where it's elusive. It's kind of like global warming, the inconvenient truth. The problem is complex and difficult to solve. So we'll talk more about that. So this is funny. I'd love to hear about your biggest struggle with kids and screens. This is something my son created for me called phubbing, the act of snubbing someone in social setting by looking at your phone instead of paying attention. Anyone ever have that? Probably if you have younger kids, it's while they're already engaged. If you have older kids, it's pretty much all the time. And if you have adults in your life, probably happens all the time too. So, well, depending, based on the work with parents, some of the biggest things that seem to be the challenges are getting them to turn the devices off, constant requests to be online, emotional meltdowns, screaming fits, changes in their behavior, and it displaces other healthy activities in understanding what they do on time, online, enforcing time limits, kind of the usual stuff you've probably heard of. But another thing is, what are your fears about the future? So this is an interesting one where we hear all kinds of threats and what could happen, but it's really hard to sort out the reality and what's truly something we should be concerned about versus this sort of to walk around in a panic mode every time your child picks up a tech device, and that is not what we promote. So if we could type your fears into the chat box, I'd love to hear more about them, and then I can address them as we go. So some of the ones we've gotten in our survey are becoming a screen zombie, trolls feeding on the insecurities, loss of imagination and attention, and really the ones like depression, anxiety, lost family time, you know, again, inappropriate content. It magnifies all their already insecurities, negative behaviors, can't get their homework done unless of sleep, just about everything. So should you be worried? Yeah, you should. Again, this book came out in 2017. It's an author named Jean Twenge. She is a professor of psychology at the University of San Diego. She wrote a book. She writes on intergenerational change, and she wrote a book called iGen. It's got a super long title. I won't go into it, but best quote I think that sums it up is, we're on the brink of the worst mental health crisis in decades. So that's something to really think about. UCSF, there's a guy named Dr. Harvey Pepper, and he's also writes for the study of, the author of a study on digital addiction for the Journal of Neuroregulation. Why I read that is twisted. Anyway, students who use their phones most reported high levels of isolation, loneliness, depression, and anxiety. And that's really only the kids we get to study who are in college, okay? So just think about what we don't know. And then that's there twice. And should you be worried? Well, one of the biggest things to think about, oh dear, is that slide doesn't work there. Should you be worried? Tristan Harris is a guy who, he used to be a Google ethicist. So he was an engineer at Google who was in charge of creating ethically sound software. So the persuader and the persuadee's goals were aligned. And he said it was impossible and created a movement called Time Well Spent. And, you know, the sort of, if this makes sense to you, it's a little techie, but it's engineered to hijack all of our psychological vulnerability. So at a very core level of engineering and psychology, we can't win. Another thing, so an example of this that he gives a very detailed outline of the top 10 ways that we're being hacked. Engineered, again, this is not our fault, it's not the kids' fault, but we have a prefrontal cortex. So if you just think about the first one, which is the menu, once these kids are given a device, the menu on that device defines the options of the world, okay? So whatever's not on the menu, talking, eating, boredom, running, thinking, meditating, none of those are on the menu, and therefore they don't exist. And again, for a child who's developing, wiring its neural pathways, that makes a big difference. Probably one of the biggest concerns is what we have not seen yet. And for the first time, the National Institutes of Health have started a groundbreaking study on the effects of screen time in kids. And it's in 21 sites across the country. They've begun interviewing 9 and 10-year-old kids and doing brain scans. And initially, it's not good news. It was Anderson Cooper did an interview with them. And again, we're in the midst of a natural, uncontrolled experiment on the next generation of children. So whatever data we have today about the problems is nowhere near what we're going to see in the future. So why do I need it? Again, there's plenty of information out there. There's plenty of articles you've probably heard, you're probably worried. But the information, this is a woman named Anya Kamenetz, and she's the lead education blogger on National Public Radio, and also wrote a book called The Art of Screen Time. And she says the information isn't getting to parents in a way they can understand and use. It's all out there, right? But parenting the digital age is nuanced and personal, not something to be solved with an app or phone control. So it's great screen time controls in the new iOS and in Android, the digital well-being, but those tech apps themselves will not solve this problem. So, you know, managing screens is like the Wild West, I swear. It's uncharted territory, and there are no long-term proven solutions. So I want to tell you a story. Speaking of the Wild West, I'll just tell you my story. Years ago, I think it was around 2012 when I started to see and feel the effects of tech. But around 2015, I started to notice the devices in my house were proliferating. There was everything from the smartphone to the computer in the desk, in the kitchen, and then the connected TV, the Kindle, and the iPads. But for us, the Xbox was Pandora's box. I had a 14-year-old boy at the time. And the Xbox, again, for boys and girls, I think that their vulnerabilities are different, and depending on the personality of the child. But for him, the Xbox ended up having, it was a time in his life where he had just gone through puberty or was still doing it. It was a vulnerable time. He was changing to a new high school, and all of his friends were not. And this became a horrible problem. It quickly escalated, and we saw him show signs of addiction. Our sweet boy was transforming into someone else. And it is hard because when they go through puberty, you never know if it's just that or if they're truly having some addictive signs. But I have addiction in my family, and I could kind of notice the compulsivity that came along with it that was outside of the normal teen thing. He started lying and hiding and staying up late and really even forgetting to eat or go to the bathroom at 14. So we were worried. We were really concerned. We tried anything we could think of. Rules limiting tech use, he didn't listen. You know, we tried device-based control settings. If you've ever tried that, you'll know every single device is different. You know, even on these new smart speakers, they're set so it's automatically opted in. If you want to change it, you actually have to opt out. So you have to, the user has to do all the work to set up controls, and it was impossible. We tried Wi-Fi limits, but again, each of them, they're all fallible and require more work for the parent to do this at each different level. And also then he found offline play, and they do this thing where they install a private VPN. The kids are always going to win. They're always going to be one step ahead of us. And then, of course, there's old parent policing, which is fun, but as we all know, that's exhausting. Oh my gosh, is it ever? And the only thing that's worse is probably yelling and screaming, which is kind of the default that I think most of us know quite well. And the problem is we also know that the relationship deteriorates. So we were falling apart, my family, and we really had to admit tech's not going away. It's completely integrated culturally, and we can't consider abstinence. It's not realistic. We just didn't possess the knowledge and didn't know what to do because we had tried everything. There are a lot of things I didn't even put on there that we had tried that were outside help because, again, the list goes on so long. And frankly, we just needed a reboot. My whole family was exhausted. Our relationships were falling apart. I mean, it was absolutely horrible. So we thought, hey, what can we do? We really considered, oh my God, a boarding school. I called around, you know, I asked friends. We considered, okay, should we send him back to therapy? Should we get meds? Should we go send him to a boot camp somewhere? But finally we decided we were scheduled to leave on vacation in 2 weeks. And we decided to send him to a 28-day wilderness program in the Boundary Waters between Eli, Minnesota and Canada, where he would be canoeing, backpacking, and portaging 175 miles through the Boundary Waters. That was pretty extreme. It was a family-centered program also, and they had a restorative justice approach as opposed to a punitive or a structured disciplinarian approach, which we really thought was great. It turned out to be a truly transformational experience. Really not what we were expecting because we really wanted him to just be fixed. But the first part of it was parents looking inward and take a critical look at how we contributed to the problem and perpetuated the negative behaviors. And then we had to take a look at, you know, this was going to be a collaborative two-way effort. We thought he would come back fixed. That's hardly the way they set it up. And also that we had to stop parenting and really start mentoring. There's a guy named Mike Riera that, you know, after the kids go through puberty, they say you get fired as your child's manager and you need to lobby to be rehired as its coach. And long-term behavior change takes ongoing effort, focus, and commitment. It's not a one-stop shop. So that was pretty clear. And also that a big part of it was us modeling healthy tech use. And this is just a funny comic here. Are you a mother fubber? Which is, again, a fubber is the kid ignoring you, but if you're a mother fubber, then you're the mom doing it back to the kids. And don't we all know that familiar? So we finally had a plan through this process in the program. We had an initial contract or agreements that we wrote there at the camp when we were leaving, and then we wrote one for the week, and then we had these tools for SMART goals, and we had tools for negotiating conflict in a group. But you know, best laid plans. You know how to make God laugh. Just tell me your plans. We had previously scheduled a time to go to a vacation. This was already planned before he went, and I have 3 sisters, and my kids have it's 7 cousins, and those kids did not come from the same mentality and really had fallen into society and sort of the overall expectations. And so those 7 kids, which were all teenagers between, I don't know, the spread was about 5 years, were glued to their devices for a whole week while we were all staying in one house. It was excruciating for all of us. It was almost the worst thing that possibly could have happened. And I can't tell you the agony and defeat that I thought. I thought, I'm never going to win this war. If it's not just society, it's my family, it's the world. How can I possibly save this kid? So we had to try to adjust it and make it work in real life, IRL. Over time, we worked really hard on adapting the contract and giving it some legs, like, hey, what are some other things you can do besides doing things on screens? And hey, let's think about a contract where you get some screen time if you accomplish these goals, right? So we worked with him to evolve this concept of an set of agreements over time to make it work for him in real life and as he grew and matured, and then school time rules are different than summertime rules. So in the end, the system that we found is totally worth it. I really can't remember the last time I had to take his devices away, and he really likes it too. We understand each other's wants and needs, and he does believe he's gained my trust. I think he has a huge sense of pride about the way he's able to control his own tech use, and especially because he notices some people around him who can't. Then I decided, hey, I had a lot of people asking me about it. Hey, what is this? And I sent the contract to so many people, but it was funny because I'd send it to them and they wouldn't do anything, because this piece of paper itself is really hard to implement, because again, behavior change, as you know, is hard. If it worked by itself, then we could all just take the time management template that Demir gives us, and we'd be on our own. So I found my partner. Our kids had gotten bat mitzvah together, and I brought her in to see, hey, what do you think of this? Well, she's very different than me in every single way, personally, professionally, family. Her husband is very collaborative. One of her sons is younger. Her son goes to private school, mine to public. Just there's a lot of big, big differences. And she has a 10-year-old boy. My other child is a girl, a 16-year-old girl now. At the time, everyone was younger. And they have different personalities completely than mine. So she wanted to try it at her house to make sure it could work. So I wanted to, in a note about her experience, I wanted to talk about one of the worst challenges with kids and screens, which is this concept of vamping, which is losing sleep because I stay up all night texting. And I have to fix this, but these are all the different problems. And so she started, he was sleeping with the device in his bedroom every night. And so that's where she started, in the bedroom. And she talked to him in the place where there was the most friction. He had his phone in the bedroom all night, and it boiled down to the weak argument of using his phone as an alarm clock, which, which he didn't even pay attention to anyway. So he agreed to move the devices from the room. And frankly, he's getting more quality sleep, and it opened up the door to conversations about his tech life choices. So that was a really great experience, and she felt it was successful. So she's gone on to implement many more of the things in my learnings, and then we've worked together over the years to evolve it to all the societal changes and the kids' ages and the different ways that the velocity of tech continues to develop. So, but today she's got a verbal contract, so it illustrates how different we are, and no more arguments with the teenager about devices in the bedroom. He gets more quality sleep, and the whole family has an understanding of tech-free zones. Her and her husband batch email and don't answer texts when they're together in the kitchen. And she feels she can positively influence her kids around tech. So she was given a method to support, and she really feels like she can continue to take on this challenge full speed. So now comes to the 3 counterintuitive truths about parenting in the screen age. First of all, it is not the same. So I realize we all think we can take what we knew in our parenting models and just adapt them over time, but today we give our kids a filterless portal to the world, allowing content, sponsors, friends, and strangers to shape their thoughts. I thought I could raise my kids at something approximation of how I was raised, but you can't. It's a totally different ballgame. It all boils down to we need a reboot. You really, really, really need new tools, new lesson, and tons of support because society is working against us. We used to call on the phones, and now we do everything and we used to play at parties, and now it's all on devices. We used to have family relationships, and now there's a lot more yelling and screaming. So a lot of the things in every aspect of life has changed. But a second truth is parents do have the power. It's really surprising to me. Despite all appearances to the contrary, parents do have the power. It can feel like your kid would rather listen to anyone but you, but it's not true. Your kids are looking for a role model. And even though you don't think they're listening, they are. Yet there's this who me epidemic everywhere, which is people complain about the kids' tech use, but they're not willing to get in and do the work. I think mostly because they don't know what to do. So again, just because tech overuse is pervasive and the kids feel entitled to it, doesn't mean we can't do something about it. So the third counterintuitive truth is the real solution to this problem is low tech. So we have a low tech solution for a high tech problem. And frankly, it's something you could do easily. So it's simple, but not easy, as most behavior change. So what's the deal with this tool that we've been talking about? It's something that I gave the genesis of. It came from the wilderness program, but we've adapted it quite a bit over time. Well, it's called a family screen contract. It's something you may have heard of before. But ours has a lot, there's a lot of intelligence around it. So, let's dive in and go over it. I'm going to show you a little bit about mine. And this is actually the one that it's not mine because mine was created, number one, because I have so much knowledge and experience around this. I think it's sort of, it's advanced screen control, and it's probably something we should start with at the template level that's a little bit less sophisticated to start, which I'm happy to share with you my specific one as well, if you're interested. But again, the contract alone is not the trick. So the first one is really principles, and there's a child and parent agreement. That's the key. It's a two-way collaborative approach. And it's basically one of the biggest challenges I find is parents establishing that the access to devices for kids is a privilege, not a right. And honestly, it seems super simple, but if you think about it and you think about the friends you know, they don't behave that way. Again, this responsibility concept, I think kids have come to think of devices as things they own, and they don't really attach the value to them because, they are so pervasive, and the companies make them so inexpensive so they can collect the data about us. And again, that basically to set up the paradigm that we are still creating limits. We create limits on bedtimes. We show them how to eat right. We show them how to drive. And we're also going to create limits around tech use. It's somehow the proliferation has escaped that paradigm. And this concept, again, depending on how old your kid is, it's this concept that, this device and the parent's going to sit between the device and the child. You're going not between it, but it'll be a triangle. So we expect them to come back to us and talk to us about what they're doing online. And again, that we want to just say that any interacting with strangers, some of this stuff is respectful communication and demure. Yes, I have to get a script around this and I will get it. Again, some of these observables, this is where a lot of customization comes in. Okay, so that we're going to set guardians and parents set limits, and it talks about the difference between entertainment time and screen time, since Google has weaseled its way into the classroom. And it talks about responsibilities. I have something that says increased responsibilities, increased privileges to my kids. And they know that. And rules without consequences are merely suggestions. And the following places and times are you need to have your device-free zones. Again, the bedroom is completely off limits always. Should be. There's absolutely no one that can give me an argument, and I challenge all of you to try to give me an argument that would say that the phone should be in the bedroom. And you can set your own limits around those. I don't think that there's anything that's wrong in this scenario. It's all about what works for your family. Also, this concept of child being in partnership, because it seems like that the current paradigm is set up so we are enemies in the process. They want their devices. We want them off the devices. And this concept of partnership around it is really what this contract is trying to bring. Then really the parents have to agree. So I think it's this act of grace that really encourages the kids to participate in the discussion and follow the rules, frankly. That some of it is pointing out the difference between the responsibilities of a parent and child, and a lot of this will depend on your child's age and maturity level. Again, some of what we repeat is I'm responsible for the care and upkeep, just to show, hey, I am too. So it shows the corollary. And it also gives the child respect about the fact that the parents aren't going to be posting stuff all over. There's a whole movement about children taking their parents to court for posting things. I'm like saying to my daughter, okay, I'll see you in court. And then respect and compassion, I think it's the same exact stuff. So since we give these rules to ourselves, it makes us more vulnerable. And we kind of agree to the same basic guidelines as them. The other thing is this new concept of really us being mindful of our tech use. It's something I had to learn. I've been working with Demir and Carrie on it, and it is really hard, and it will continue to get harder. This every 30 minutes, just set a time frame or something you can do where you kind of say, hey, what's going to be my break? Where do I prove that I too need a tech life balance and I need a break, and where will I not use the phone? And again, it's to promise, if you know most parents, we have the same problem. So we sort of clue out with the kids, and you'll see parents with their kids, little kids in a park, and they're on their devices, and caregivers, and we're talking to our child about the end of the day, yet we're on our phone. That kind of stuff sends them a clear signal that whatever else they're doing is far more important than the kid. So, and again, I will attempt to include my child. So basically, if something comes up, we say, hey, let's collaborate and work together on a solution, rather than me coming down with a strong, iron fist. So that's about that contract. And again, it's about the one we teach to in the course, but what it is the contract itself is hardly going to solve the problem in full. So what we've talked about is we told you our stories, and we've talked to you about the 3 counterintuitive truths and showed you the screen contract. But there's so much more to share. I've tried this where I've had a lot of my friends and my sisters ask me for the screen contract. I send it, and guess what? They do nothing. I don't even, and then I'll ask them about it, and I'll offer to help, and I'll say, send your kids over. And I offer to all of my friends, and I've done this with them. I've actually gone to their house. I've written over goals. I've gone through the contract. So it's actually a lot more. What it is the contract is actually the vessel. The journey is the thing that gets results. That's what we realized over time. The contract itself is something that's just, it's only as good as you use it, change it, massage it. It's the manifestation of all of the work put into the dialogue. That's two-way. And what I've gained anyway, though, is a shared vocabulary to resolve differences, and as has Sherry, structure for collaboration, improve family relationships, and really, I feel confident about tech life balance over time. Just last night, my son was doing FaceTime in his bedroom, and he's 18 years old, and we still don't allow him to have a computer in his bedroom, because it's just a rule that, if he wants to go do it and he's earned my confidence, then yeah, that's okay, but he didn't ask. And so we were able to have that conversation in a really respectful way, and I let him do it. But it was a conversation where I didn't like freak out and say, what are you doing? Are you doing porn? You know, I mean, that could have been a really bad situation. Again, what we don't have anymore is the confusion about expectation, emotionally reacting. I'll admit, sometimes I still do, but then he calls me on it, and I step off my high horse. And threats to take away devices. I mean, I gotta say, last night I thought he slept with his phone, and I did threaten, and he hadn't slept with it. It was just charging in a different place, which is also a violation. But again, I think we have both become flexible. And nor I'm no more hiding devices. We would hide the devices, but we'd have to find new places because they'd see, and then we just had no idea where they were. For even for us, even if it was a joint device like a TV remote. So basically, yes, there are tons of information available. That's what I found. There is no shortage of information. Books, I've read them all, by the way. If there's anything you want to know, I can tell you the summary. There's podcasts about this, and I've listened to them, and I listened to them on 2 to 3 times the speed. There's lots of websites. I've met with the people at Common Sense Media. I've met with the people at the Center for Humane Technology or the Children Action Screen Time Network. So I've sort of gotten in with the people who are in this industry. And then, of course, binging on TED Talks is one of my favorite things to do. However, that information is not actionable. So what we did is we created a really simple path to success that kind of combines everything that I used, and then I was able to help Sherry use, and then I was able to help dozens of my friends use to help get back control of technology in their home and set up their kids for success with tech-life balance. It really comes down to more the screen contract is the vessel, but the concept is tech life mentorship, right? So what's your parenting style? How do you model behavior and adopt that mentor role? And what's your child's personality, family structure, digital media diet? All that stuff matters. What are your family values? And how do you engage supporters? And how do you stay committed to the tech life balance for the long haul? What's the timing on this thing? You know, when do you give your kid a phone, and when's the time for the conversation? How do you encourage and how do you cultivate empathy on and offline? And how do you maintain a two-way dialogue? So a lot of people said, you know, is this right for you? Will it work for me? Well, it does work for all kinds of families that I've worked that use the tool and use the systems that we've created. So it doesn't mean that you have to be married parents. It doesn't mean that you have to be, you know, you can do it if you're a single parent. It doesn't mean that you have to live in the US, although currently it's only in English, but you have to learn the lessons, you have to do the homework, and you have to do reflection, and you have to participate in the group and ask me lots of questions. You have access to Sherry and I who've done it ourselves. So, you know, when you say, what is it worth? It's a very hard thing to make tangible, but the wilderness program itself and all the travel back and forth and then the family reintegration was definitely over $20,000. Then there's a company called Families Managing Media who is raising funds. It's a nonprofit to create a course like this. They said the price tag is $50,000. So, you know, you certainly can. I know what I spent, and it's far more. It's somewhere between that. But the other things that I did is after that, I took the Life Hack Bootcamp series, so I was able to layer in this concept of productivity, focus, time management, and goal setting as it relates to children, which we were never, ever taught in school. We've interviewed hundreds of people. I mean, I go to my kids' schools. They go to all different schools. The teachers, administrators, the parents, kids, therapists, doctors, because I've been in contact with all of those as I was trying to solve it other ways. And we've gone to the conferences, speakers, books, and webinars. So I know what I spent. You have to decide what it's worth for you. For us, we really look at it as like, what's our legacy? Greg McGowan, if you haven't heard him speak, he wrote a book called Essentialism, and he was at the Life Hack Summit. And he says, live your life from the 100-year legacy. To me, this is my sport. Parenting is my sport and my legacy, so it's worth it. What did we price this course at? $497. It's the amount of time and energy we invested is nowhere. I mean, that the price is a very small fraction of that. But again, I think it comes to, we really want to serve people. I used to, a long time ago, I've been an entrepreneur forever, so it feels like I'm a passionate person who really enjoys helping other people. So also we've included tools and templates in there to make it easy, that we created ourselves, did not take them from any of the templates other people use. A very considered and sort of, we think, a sophisticated curriculum and teaching. So, I mean, just imagine if you had the most recent information, you just knew that it was the right information, and a lot of it is current, as you know from Life Hack Bootcamp. You need the tools and support, but a lot of it is the same systems, although, no, I'm not going to claim that I'm Carrie and Demir, but I've learned a thing or two from them about this accountability and how much it's helped me. And that you feel prepared to be a Tech Life mentor. Regardless, society is not going to take this thing by the storm, and it's not going to say, okay, stop watching Facebook, stop doing any of those things you're doing. So, in the end, if you want to leave a legacy to become a Tech Life mentor, you can really use tech to enhance your real life, align tech use with your family values, create boundaries around tech use, adopt new healthy habits, manage how digital media influences your life, and help kids reach their potential. And let's see here. A lot of people that don't do this, I told you how many different people I've given it to. There are a lot of challenges, like, I don't want to fight with my kids. It's already hard. Who wants to fight with a teenager? My kids are different. It's overwhelming. My partner won't support it. We've tried it before. It doesn't last, but they need it for school. I don't have enough time. No matter what I do, it won't work. We've heard it all before. And I can tell you, it will. So it's not just me. So then once I engaged with a bunch of my other friends and we put them through the beta program, we found that people in a diverse set of situations it works for. So I have a friend who's a divorced father of 2 girls, and divorce is a whole different situation, and we can speak to that issue quite eloquently. Again, this aunt is in the UK. He has 2 girls, Shelley, a mother of 2 boys, and Bridget, she's a dyslexic boy, and it works for all of them. And that can tell you more about that if you're interested. So our family 5 years later, but now we have a deep-seated ethos of connection versus isolation. So my kids, again, I think they're probably different than most, but I have them do the TED Talks and, engage with me in a healthy dialogue around some of the bigger issues that make this a problem. And really, my son's internalized our family values. So in some ways, I feel like even if he slips up now and then, he's got the basics, the basic building blocks of what he's going to need to take this into college and beyond. So he just turned 18. Our family, I will tell you that through all the havoc, I am divorced and living in an amicable, somewhat, marriage where we're living in the same house, raising our kids with these digital limits, which were even written into our marriage settlement agreement. That's how important it is. And I told, this is a funny picture because for this holiday season, we got my kids phones that they could sleep with. And so what do I want to offer to you? Bonus offer does not go here. So is it worth it? Well, we think it is. It'll save you time rather than yelling at your kids to get off screens again and again. It will give you all the information that's organized in a single place. We help you understand what tech tools and educational resources you should use so you can spend your resources wisely, and most of all, wear and tear on your family relationships with your kids and their siblings, with the kids, your extended family, and your partner or parenting partner. So fast solution for fast parents. Oh dear, alternatives if you do nothing. Damn it, I have to fix that. You'll avoid these problems. And you have choices. You could just do some tech addiction treatment centers. Oh boy, this is where it falls apart. I'm not sure why this is like this. Wait a minute, something is missing. Okay, guys, I don't know what I did here. I feel like the price should have been there. So that's kind of what I got now. I will work tomorrow, and this is the live graveyard. But yeah, that's what I got for now. I hope it's better than before. Okay, bye. Stop recording.